Hey, what's up guys? This video is on the full midterm review for the year 2022. So for the midterm, you guys need to know how to use distributive property, combining like terms, order operation. So there's a lot of things, and I'm going to do a two-part midterm review. So we have two videos for this. This is going to be the first one, and let's look at number one. So notice we have a number 6 outside of the parentheses. Inside, we're multiplying by the quantity of p plus m plus 9. So distributive property is when you multiply the number outside times the inside. So we multiply the 6 times p, and that's going to be 6p. You multiply the next one, 6 times positive m, and remember that has an invisible 1 here. So you multiply 6 times 1, that's going to be 6, and keep the variable m. And then you guys multiply the next one, 6 times positive 9. Careful with the signs. Right now we have two positive numbers. So positive 6 times positive 9, that's positive 54. You always have to check if you guys have like terms, but the variables are not the same. Notice here the p and the m, and the 54 is a constant. It doesn't have a variable. So these are not like terms. Now in mathematics, we like to write the answer in standard form, which means that we need the variables in alphabetical order. And m here is before p, alphabetical order. So you guys can switch those two terms. You guys can put the 6m first, and then the positive 6p. And the constant is always at the end. So you guys have the plus 54 at the end. So that is the answer. For number 2, you do have a negative number outside the parentheses. So we have the negative 7 here, and we have to be careful with the signs because inside of the parentheses, we also have negative numbers or negative terms. And I noticed the variables are not the same, so those are not like terms. We're not going to be able to combine like terms, but we do need to distribute or multiply the negative 7 times the negative 5y. That's going to be positive 35 with the y. Notice it's positive because it's a negative times a negative. That'll be a positive. And the next one will be a negative 7 times negative 2z. That's going to be a positive 14z. Again, those are not like terms, so we have the answer here. For question number 3, we do have order of operations. So you guys need to know how to put that in the calculator. You guys will be able to use decimals or a scientific calculator. So all you do guys is copy what you see on the actual problem. So in decimals, I'm going to put 30 right there divided by 6. And remember that in decimals, it makes a fraction. So you're going to have to move the cursor to the right. Do not forget, after the fraction, you need to move the cursor to the right. And then you guys multiply by 8 and subtract 8. So the answer is 32. That's all you have to do. Order operation, you can use scientific calculator, so it can actually do the work for you guys. And for number 4, you also have the order operation, but you have to be careful when you guys use scientific calculator or decimals because we do have a parenthesis. Very common mistake, students forget to use parentheses in the calculator. Don't forget, if you see parentheses, make sure you put that in the calculator. So in decimals, I am going to open parentheses, and I'm going to have the 9 plus 27 inside. And you close the parentheses, you divide by 2. Now notice that it's going to make a fraction, but I need to move that to the right. So you guys have the parentheses on the top, divided by 2. I move the cursor to the right, and I subtract the 10, and that's going to be 8 for your answer. And number 5, guys, same thing. You guys do have the order of operations. So notice here we have parentheses with an exponent of 2. So you guys will have to use the exponent of 2 in decimals or the scientific calculator. Don't forget the parentheses, and then you guys copy everything else. So I'm going to erase this in decimals. I'm going to open parentheses. I'm going to have the 20 divided by 4. Notice that I do need to move the cursor to the right so I can close the parentheses. And then I add a squared, I use a squared. And I have a plus 10. And we divide by 5. So the answer will be 27. I do want to emphasize in decimals, it's a little bit weird because you guys have the fractions. In decimals, you guys have those parentheses with fractions. So it looks a little bit weird, but just make sure that every time you divide and you make a fraction, you move the cursor to the right. and use the squared or whatever you guys have on the right side of the fraction, and make sure you guys are using the same signs. You copy everything you see in the problem and you guys will be good. So the answer will be 27 for number 5. Number 6 is not using distributive property. We don't have parentheses, but we do have variables and like terms. So like terms are the ones that have the same variable with the same exponent. And I do see an m plus a 2x plus another m plus another m plus x over here. So remember that the variable that doesn't have an actual number, it does have an invisible one. So this m is 1m, and I'm just going to put that right there so you guys remember. The other m over here also has a 1, and the next m also has a 1. So you guys are going to combine the m's, and you add, that's combining positive 1m plus 1m plus 1m. That's going to be 3. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. Keep the variable m. Notice I don't have any exponents because the m doesn't have an exponent. So I keep the variable m, and then I continue with the x. That's the next variable we have. Positive 2x plus a 1x right here. There's an invisible 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. And then you keep the x. This m and the x are not like terms. They're not the same letter. So there's my answer when you combine the m's and the x. So number 7 is actually using the distributive property and combining like terms. And I do know that because we have a 3 outside the parentheses and you're multiplying the quantity of 6b minus 2. And I also see we have a b inside the parentheses and another b outside of the parentheses. So we'll probably be able to combine those terms. But first, we need to distribute. We need to multiply. So I'm going to multiply 3 times 6b. That's going to be 18. 3 times 6 is 18. Keep the b. And 3 times negative 2 over here, that's going to be negative 6. Now this one, the positive 4b is not inside the parentheses. So you just bring it down. You don't do anything to that yet. So there's a plus 4b. And we do have like terms. Like terms are the ones that have a b. They have a variable, the letter b. So 18b plus 4b, that's going to be 22. You add, because they're both positive, 22b. And then you guys have a constant, the minus 6. We don't have another constant, so you just bring it down, minus 6. And here's my answer. Those two terms are not like terms, the 22b and the 6, because 22 has a b and the minus 6 doesn't have a b. So there's my answer. Now number 8, you actually have two parentheses, so we have to distribute 2 times, and I have to multiply the 5 and the minus 3 to the parentheses. So first, let's do the 5. 5 times positive 2y, that's going to be a 10. 5 times 2 is 10y. And then you multiply the 5 times the positive 2, that's going to be a positive 10. The second 2 doesn't have a y, so you just put the constant, the 10 here. The next one, there's a minus 3, that's a negative. Minus means negative. So we have a negative 3 times positive 1, that's going to be minus 3. Careful with the signs. A negative times a positive is a negative. And then we have the negative 3 times the negative. Again, careful with the signs. A negative times a negative, that will be a positive. 3 times 2 is 6, and then the y. So we have a positive 6y. We do have like terms. You always start with the one that has a variable. So the 10y here plus the 6y over here, that's going to be 16y. And they do have the same sign, so that's what you add. If they have different signs, you subtract and keep the sign of the biggest number. But right now they're both positive, so we have 16y. And you guys can combine the constants, the positive 10 and the negative 3. 10 minus 3, that's going to be positive 7. So the answer is 16y plus 7. So for number 9 through 13, what you guys want to check is if that the question or the mapping or the table or the set of ordered pairs is a function. That's what you want to know. So it says here, are the following a function? So let's look at number 9. Number 9, you guys have mapping. You have the inputs and the outputs. You can say x and y. Actually, let me put that on the top so you guys remember. Inputs are x, outputs are the y's. So the main thing you have to look for is when you have mapping, the inputs or the x values must have only one arrow going out in order to say it is a function. So we have the 10, 20, 30, 40, and every number has only one arrow going out. So this is a function, yes. If one number for the inputs, and I'm looking at the x's, the inputs has two arrows going out, then it's not a function. But number 9 it is, because every single input has only one arrow going out. If you guys look at number 10, the first input, this one, the 2, has two arrows going out. So right there, I know this is not a function. The outputs doesn't really matter. The outputs can be repeating. You can have two arrows going in. That's okay. But remember, it's all about the inputs, the x's. Since we have two arrows going out from this input, the number 2, then this is not a function. When you guys have tables and you want to know if it is a function or not, you must look at the inputs again, the x values. So up here it says input and it has the x. So the x values, in order to be a function, the x's cannot repeat. So here we have a 0, 1, 2, 3. They're not repeating. That's totally fine. So this is a function. Yes, it is. If the x values are repeating, if one number is repeating, then you say, no, it's not a function. For number 12, notice the inputs, the x's, inputs are x, and let me just put the variable x on the top so you remember. The outputs are your y's right here. So for the x's, well, they're repeating. All the numbers are 3, 3, 3, 3. Since the x's are repeating, then you say, no, this is not a function. For the y's, you guys can have the y's repeating, that's fine. But it's all about the x's, the inputs, they cannot repeat. And here we have all of them repeating 3, 3, 3, so it's not a function. Number 13, it says here, which set of values is a function? Now the set of values are order pairs. We have set number 1, we have the order pair 0, 3, negative 1, 2, 7, 5, 2, negative 9. And then you guys see set number 2, and we have those order pairs right here. Now the same thing as tables, you guys look at the x values and make sure that the x values are not repeating in order to say it is a function. So I'm going to zoom in here to the two sets, and I'm going to label my x values and the y's. So I have x here, and there's the y, x, y. So remember, the first number is always x, and the second number is y. So the first set, I'm looking at set number 1. The x value is 0, negative 1, 7, and 2. So I notice that the x's are not repeating. Let me say that again. For the x values, we have a 0, a negative 1, a 7, and a 2. So since the x values are not repeating, then this sets number 1, it is a function. I'm going to circle it, and I'm going to put yes, it's a function, because the x values are not repeating. If you look at set number 2, for set number 2, here's my x value, negative 1. The next one is 2, but the next one is negative 1 again. It is repeating. And the next one is also negative 1. So actually, negative 1 is repeating 3 times. Negative 1 here for the x, another one over here, and another one. So set number 2 is not a function. I'm going to cross the 1 out. So you guys remember, not a function because the x values are repeating. So this concludes my first video for the midterm review. I'm going to make another one so you guys can review the rest of the questions. Make sure you guys practice. If you guys like my videos, you guys can click the like button, and you guys can also subscribe to my channel. Make sure you guys practice, and I'll see you guys later.